And I'm again repeating, those who are experiencing any problem on LinkedIn while we are streaming our video, please go to my YouTube channel, that is The Big Data Show. You will able to find this streaming on my YouTube channel too. There the quality of streaming is little better than LinkedIn. Okay, and you will able to comment. We will able to also show your see your comment and also check your questions. Okay, and we will be also inviting many persons to ask their questions. So as we have already communicated in the event descriptions, so this is not a podcast or talking type of show. We will be talking less and taking more questions. Okay. So
Yes.
perfect. Yeah. So please go to my YouTube channel if you are having any problems on LinkedIn and watch this live streamings on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel name is The Big Data Show. You will able to find it. I've also given the link of my channel in the comment sections. I think we are ready for start. Ready to start. Hi everyone. I think we have waited for a couple of minutes and most of the people have joined. So let's start. Okay. Hi everyone. This is the second event that we are conducting live on LinkedIn and YouTube. Previously, we have done one audio event where we talked about how someone can enter into data engineering, what is data engineering, what is the typical job of a data engineer on a day-to-day basis, and that was an audio event that we held some days back. Now this is the second event where we are going to talk about SQL. So SQL or SQL is a very essential part of data engineering. Those who are starting into data engineering, they should learn SQL. Why? Because see, after 4 or 5 years, the in data engineering some framework will change. But what is the common patterns from last 10 to 15 years is that all those frameworks which are being developed like Apache Spark, BigQuery, Athena, and there are multiple frameworks, right? Which is used in data engineering are all based on SQL thinking skills. If you can listen me carefully, that I have not talked about databases. I've only talked about SQL. Why? Because data engineers are not expected to know databases so intensively, but their thinking skills should be very much pretty should be very pretty clear about SQL. Whenever some problem statement is given, their mind should be very clear about these problems needs group by, these problems needs some joins. If it is joined, then it should be very much clear that they have to apply inner join, left joins, outer join, anti joins, or something like that, right? So one has to develop the SQL thinking skills, right? It doesn't matter if you don't know store procedure in database, trigger in database, okay? But if you just understand or develop your SQL thinking skills, you will be good to go in data engineering. Okay, you don't need to understand that much deep into acid transaction and other things. So this particular events we are targeting for data engineers, and we will be trying to show you how you can develop your SQL thinking skills and how you can actually crack product based companies. Okay, we will talk from interview perspectives, we will talk from your work perspectives, and we will try to cover as many as questions as possible. And I am glad to have Kamran with me. Kamran is working in a GoDaddy right now. He's an architect in GoDaddy, and he has worked a lot. He has invested his 8 to 10 years of times into this type of work, and he has worked as a software developer. He has also worked as a professionally in backend development. He has worked in the data engineering domain, so he has intensive knowledge. And we will try to know from Kamran what is this SQL and how someone can actually tackle it. Kamran, over to you. Will you like to add your inputs, and if you can give little intro about yourself, it will be much helpful for our audience.
Yes. So thank you. So guys, can you confirm that you guys can hear me properly?
I
Anyone
I
can
can
just comment.
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you. If some other can also comment.
Yeah, that's fine. So hello everyone. My name is Kamran Ali, and right now I'm a principal data engineer in GoDaddy. And like I've started my career as a software engineer and then slowly transition towards data engineer. So this enough about myself. In this talk,
Yeah,
we are going to cover.
uh, sorry, Kamran, to interrupt. Can someone just confirm if they can able to? Yeah, someone confirm that they are able to listen to Kamran. Okay, Kamran. Sorry for disturbance. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So in this talk, and let me share my screen so that let's become more
Yeah,
descriptive.
till Kamran is trying to share his screen. Others, please confirm that Kamran is okay. I think some 1 and 2% confirm. Yeah,
Yeah, just let me know the font is comfortable.
I think it is good. If someone can also
It is
confirm.
good.
Yeah, for me it is good.
Okay, 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 guys. So in this session, I've divided this session into two or majorly three parts. The first one is I'll cover the basic how a person who's starting with SQL, how can start with it and learning from a beginner level to an advanced level. And the second part, I'll cover how to tackle the complex database problems which you might write a query in your day-to-day job or even in an interview. And then I'll end it with few interview tips that you should keep in mind, and then I'll hand it over to Ankur. So okay, so I'll start with how to prepare. And to prepare, you can start with any database, any SQL database, for example MySQL or Postgres. And if you have just one table, we can start with that. So that's what I
Uh,
mentioned, and that's how I have categorized the learning experience into two different levels. Being the first one
yes.
is intermediate, first the first one is beginner, the
Kamran,
second is intermediate, and the advanced. So
Kamran,
in the
can you
beginner
just
level, I've
increase the
started with
size? Sorry to disrupt again.
size.
Can you just increase the
Okay,
size? Somebody has commented, and
okay.
I
Is it
think,
comfortable now?
yeah, much better. If someone can confirm, Pawan, you have asked the question. Pawan, can you see it? I think. Please go ahead. I think it is good now.
Okay, okay. So the first level is the beginners level, and in which this level I have further categorized into three subparts. The first part is practicing some tests which requires you only single table. So you can simply practice how to select and from and where means select some few columns from a particular database, filter by a where clause, sort by an order clause, and then if you have a very large or huge table, you just limit the number of rows that you want to display on the screen. So this is basic basic stuff which you can play with a single table. In the second part, I have introduced how you want to aggregation. So for example, you want to gather the the count of customers in a particular city, stuff like that. So for those kind of aggregations, you should practice group by. Once you have grouped by a particular, for example, city, then you can filter on a particular aggregate value, for example count. So for that you can use having. And there is a specific distinction between where and having, which is a very used in filtering data from a particular table, but when you're doing aggregation you should use having clause. The third one being, now you know how to take meaningful data from a one table. Now you want to, now you have two three tables. So the table from the data from first table, you would want to enrich it with another table. So you can practice enrichments, and there comes the joins, and you should practice the inner joins, left outer, right outer, full join, stuff like that. So once you're comfortable with that, and you can take 1 day or 2 day to understand these syntaxes and how we are manipulating or aggregating data using these keywords, then you can proceed to intermediate level, in which which contains SQL keywords like case, when, like, in. So for example, you are given a data and you want to derive another column based on the data from one particular column. So for that case, you can use a case when statement, or you want to do some fancy aggregations and conditional aggregation. So you can use case when. And similarly for like and in, there is also a concept of union and union all. So back to the chat. Can anyone tell me which one gives duplicate and which one returns unique values? I just want to make it a little bit interactive.
Feel free to answer. It will make our talks little interactive. So please answer,
Yeah.
what is the difference between union and union all, and which one actually removes the duplicates?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
GS says
Some
union is unique.
cool.
Okay.
Okay, and to
Union
add one
remove double. Yeah.
yeah, to add one interesting fact, actually in Spark, union and union all, there is no difference actually. So in Spark, union and union all does not removes duplicates, and we have to apply distinct. I am not quite sure why in Spark they have not differentiated between union and union all. Yeah, but with SQL perspectives, that is correct. Okay,
Great.
yeah, Kamran,
And
please
let
go ahead.
me share one tip or trick. So it's a union all, right? That means it is returning all the columns. So all the columns without duplicate. So this is how you can remember it. You can practice. Between means if you want to return data between two set of integer value, for example, between 10 to 12, you can use between. Joins an interesting scenario in which you might have heard about the in which you're given a employee table with manager. So then they ask you, okay, how many, which which employee is not a manager and stuff like that. So for those kind of query, you use self joins stuff. Then once you are comfortable in these SQL syntax, you can move to a little bit advanced stuff which contains CTs and slash subqueries. So you can always write a subquery, but from good coding perspective, this is my opinion that you can use CTE, so it makes your code a little bit more descriptive in the sense that when you write CTE, you name it properly, that this the data returned from this query means that. And once you have few subqueries like that and you give meaningful names, so it improves the readability and it refactors the code and stuff like that. Then there are Windows functions. Windows functions basically helps you to group rows and then drive a column based on that particular grouping, right? So we already have group by clause which groups all the columns, which group all the rows of a particular table in Windows. Then whatever, and one thing is, when you use group by, you, for example, if there are 100 rows, you will return maximum 100 or less than 100. For example, if you are grouping by city, then you will return less number of rows. But in Windows function, you return exact the number of rows on which you are using Windows function. Then you add a row with respect to how you would want that grouping to be numbered or ranked and stuff like that. Or if you want to cover a, if you want to compare a particular row with the previous row or the next row, so you can use those keyword, those kind of scenarios. I'm not going a lot of covering a lot of details into each Windows function because it will take a lot of time, and I would want you to ask. We would want you to hear from you and ask specific questions. So this is regarding that. Now, my second uh, topic is how to tackle a complex DB problem. So, for example, you can use any SQL practicing website in which there is a problem, and then you practice writing the solution. So, how you should go about doing that? So, I'll recommend these three scenarios in which you gradually move from one scenario to the next. The first one is start with basic problems. Why? Because it will help you in correcting the syntax. You practice writing SQL in proper format as in the SQL keywords are capitalized, the query is properly intended, things like that. And one important thing that you will learn is how to translate the problem statements into SQL. So, for example, in English it is written the output sorted by name, and you can translate it that okay, we need to use order by. So basically understanding the theory of the problem and then translating it into appropriate SQL keywords, right? So this you can practice. Once you are comfortable there and you move to a little bit medium kind of problems or little bit towards hard, then you should always focus on identifying the patterns from the problem. So you might have heard about identifying patterns from DS and algorithm, those kind of scenario. Here also you can identify pattern. So a few patterns can be that we need to create a new column from existing column based on some conditions. So which means that we are using case and when. For example, there are, for example, there is a question which involves aggregate, but it has given also some certain conditions. So it is a conditional aggregate using case when, which is the third point here. Then similarly, you can identify practicing the pattern. So once, so these kind of practice, why we do this kind of practice? Because once your mind registers those patterns, once it will see similar questions, it will reduce that question into a question that you've already solved, and then you can work on the solution. So for example, that's the beauty of practicing, right? Because once you're practicing, the model that is being built in your head, you are just training it with a lots and lots of questions. So once you see an unknown problem which you might have not solved previously, you can reduce that question to a question that you have solved previously, or a part of that question that you might have solved previously. And that's that's the thing that you are looking into when you're practicing these problems. And the third point is breaking a complex and hard problem. So how, so while you're practicing, a hard problem means that it has a very verbose language, so you navigate that verbose language and identifying the columns, and then segregating how we are, for example, which table we need to join on which clause and on which columns to aggregate, and maybe there is a conditional that needs to do in a particular column. So these kind of things. So once you are able to dissect a problem by dissecting its verbose language into particular SQL statement, then this is the practice that you do. And I'll end my talk with the interview tips, that this is when you're practicing alone. Now you're appearing for an interview. So what should you do? So do this. So for example, I am an interviewer and you're giving the interview. So I presented you a question, that this is the question that we need to solve. Once you read the question, read it vocally. Means while reading the question, read it vocally so that you are trying to understand the question with the interviewer. Dissect the language of the question. Means identify the key phrases from that question, and put it somewhere else. Means you can just, online interview, you can just cut and paste in the editor. Dissect the question. Ask questions. Ask questions about the edge cases. For example, for this particular column, is there a null clause? Always interact with the interviewer. Ask follow-up questions. Why we are doing this? So this is how I'm thinking. Does it make sense? Do you have any input? Right? And once you understood the question properly, and once, then you should approach the solution. And while approaching the solution, keep these things in mind, that when you're writing a SQL query as an answer, write it in proper formatting, like capitalize the select those SQL keywords, stuff like that. Build the solution step by step. And I taken an example here. So for example, you, after reading the question, you identified that I need to join these two tables, so you written the query to join that table. Then you have also identified as a next step that I need to aggregate on, for example, an item column. So then you enhance the query that you written here on 72 and add aggregation logic and return the query here. Then, as another last part of the question, you want to, the interviewer asks you to sort by name. For example, I need the sorted by name. So again, the query that you have written in line number 25, you enhance it with sorting logic and write it here. So always proceed in a step by step manner, so that you're interacting with the idea is, you are not developing the solution in silos. In company, we don't work in silos, we always work in team. So demonstrate that you are working with the team, developing the solution while interacting, and what's the thought process in which you are employing to build a solution. So that's my time here, guys, and I'll hand it over to Ankur, and he'll cover these things.
Yeah, before I will proceed, I will like to take some questions to make it more interactive. So there are multiple comments that we can see. So I have Sagar Sutar. If you are there, please confirm, and we have send you the link of this streaming. You can join and ask your questions. Okay, and we are also sending live questions to. Okay, we will. Pawan K, can you check your messages if you are there? Okay, I think there is some lag, but we will like to. Sagar, if you are there, Sagar Sutar. Okay, so what Sagar has asked, let me ask the same questions. So Sagar has asked, yeah, Pawan, will you please check your messages, personal message? I've sent you the link, and please join using that. Okay, so till Pawan is joining, let me try answering Sagar's questions. So Sagar has asked, what is the difference between union and full join? Okay, so this very simple answer. Union requires both the schema to be same, right? Then only you can apply the union, whereas in joins you require just the common columns. Okay, you just required one column and you can just join it. That's the very basic difference. Kamran, if you like to add any other points, what is the question is, what is the difference between union and join?
Okay. So adding to what you already explained, so we join two columns based on certain keywords. So for example, dimension tables and fact table, right? You have IDs and you want to expand the information. So for example, you have a customer ID, you want to expand the customer information, you join it with the customer table. When you are when you're unioning, so for example, you're going to a very huge table and they asked you that identify the cities of customers and also identify the cities of merchants and all the suppliers and union it and give us the cumulative of all the cities that we are in business. So for you are in business with supply, you are in business with customer and stuff like that, then in that scenario you will just union that data, or you extract a subset from a single table and then you will union it.
Mhm.
I hope this answers.
Cool. Cool. I think let me cover my things, and then we will again
Hmm.
start from our question answer series. Okay. Kumar, can you just stop sharing? Let me share my screen. Yes. Okay. If someone can confirm that they are able to see my screen, uh, can someone confirm if they are able to see my screen? Yes. Cool. Let's start. So I'm going to cover some of the things that you should be focusing on. See, I'm going to cover the resources, how you can actually practice. So, as Kamran has already mentioned, that it's very necessary to practice it. Okay. So, but the question is where to practice. Okay. So, the first thing is that there are two resources where you can practice, and that they are really good: HackerRank and LeetCode. But the problem with HackerRank is HackerRank or LeetCode is that those who are starting it out, they find little difficult because when they go to these platforms and they try to solve this type of questions, they are not able to do that. So what is the reason of that? So the one of the biggest reason that I can see that people don't understand two things. One is Windows functions, and second is CT. So if you understand these two things, you will able to solve most of the lead code and hacker rank problem. Because lead code, all these questions and the questions that is asked in interviews mostly revolves around these two important part. Can you write subqueries, or can you write CTE, or can you write group by or Windows functions? So where you can actually practice your what you call sorry, Windows functions. So let me just share my screen again, and just 1 minute. I think I shared the wrong screen. Okay, I think Chrome tab. Yes, cool. So the first thing that you should do, you should go to windowsfunctions.com. Okay, you should go to this Windows function. This is the awesome website. Here you can just go and you can just find multiple questions, and it will also help you to build your logic with respect to Windows functions. You
Ankur,
can just, yeah,
sorry to
hello.
sorry to interrupt,
Mhm.
Ankur, but I'm seeing your YouTube.
You are only seeing
If
my
you're
YouTube.
sharing something else, yeah,
Yeah,
if you're sharing something else,
yeah. Let me try once again. So this is the first time we are doing live streaming. So okay, just 1 minute. Is it visible now?
now we can see your Chrome. Yes,
Can you see windowsfunctions.com?
yes, yes.
Cool. So this is the website that I was talking about. And Kamran, please put it you on mute. I'm getting little noise. Okay. So windowsfunctions.com. So this is the website that I was talking about. This can help you to understand Windows functions in a very good way. It also has some questions to practice. You can just go and click on questions. It will show you the question. It will also help you to understand the logic, and then you can just practice some of the questions. Okay, you will just write the answer of that, just run it. It will show that your answer is right or wrong. Okay, that's the first thing that you should do. Okay, once you are clear with Windows functions, then you should learn about CTE. Okay, that is creating some virtual tables. Okay, and you should be good at writing subqueries. But as Kamran already mentions that writing CTE is little better because your SQL code will look much cleaner and the readability will be much better. To learn CTE and create multiple tables, okay, with CTE, and you will understand. So this is the first thing. Then you should go and solve SQL using HackerRank. So if you go to HackerRank, you will find multiple questions. But your goal should be not to solve 100% of questions. If you are stuck somewhere, try to go to the discussion sections. There are good discussions that has already happened. Somebody might have also pasted the answer, but don't try to look into the answer directly. Just try to read the discussion. That will help you. Start with very basic. Okay, go and just click SQL basic, then go for intermediate, then go for advanced. Okay, these two things are done, then you should go for lead code. Okay, but the problem with lead code is that it comes with a premium account, right? It comes with a premium account. So many people might not be having the premium account, the lead code account, right? So they will not able to practice the good questions, good SQL questions that is there on lead code. What you can do, I found one awesome GitHub repo. This particular person, Chintan, he works in Flipkart, and he actually created very good repo which contain all your lead code problems, all your lead code questions. If you can just go and just search his directory, you will find all the questions that is there on lead code. You will able to see this question. I also given the given, if you go to redmi.file, he has also dumped his database. So you can, what you can do, you can just create one database and dump all those test scenario, and you can then go to these particular problems, and you can just try solving each and every problem. So it will help you to solve multiple lead code problems. That's the uh, that's the fourth resources. So first, what is the first resources that you have to do? You have to go and use windowsfunctions.com, learn Windows functions from there, go to HackerRank, try solving at least basic and intermediate. If you are not able to solve SQL advanced, not a problem. Go to go to this particular repo. We will give this link of this particular all three resources in our LinkedIn comment sections. You will able to find it. Go to this particular GitHub repo. It has all those lead code questions. If you are not having premium account, this can help you. You just go and follow this readme file, and follow this readme file, and you will able to dump the data inside your any Postgres or MySQL server. And what you can do, you can practice lead code problems on that. There is another thing, that is data limor. This is also a very good website to practice. It has very nice sets of questions, but you might find little hard if you directly jump to data limor. So solve Windows function, solve lead code, solve hacker, and then jump to data limor. So this is the from practice points perspective, right? If somebody learns from by watching videos, what you can do, I personally think there are four resources which are really good. You can just follow. The first resources that I will recommend you to use Ankit Bansal. So if you go to YouTube, you will able to see this particular channel, Ankit Bansal. I will also give you the link. You just go to this particular website, particular play YouTube channel, and you will find dozens of good SQL problem that you can just go and just solve. Okay, and Ankit Bansal has also created one course. If somebody can afford and somebody will like to more deep dive into the SQL world, they can go and they can enroll into Ankit Bansal course. It offers good sets of SQL problems and also good sets of concepts. Okay. The second thing that I will recommend is to use Trendy Tech Insights. So many people you might have heard about Sumit Mittal. He is a very great teachers in field of data engineering. You can go to Trendy Tech. It's his channel. You can go to Trendy Tech Insights, and you can just go, and there are 16 video available SQL tutorial. Okay, so you can just go and just follow these things. Okay, and I have also, when I started my YouTube channel, I have also tried to cover some of the lead code problems. Okay, some of the lead code problems, so you can just go to my playlist also, and you can just try watching the lead code problems. Okay, so I've solved, I think, 20 to 25 problems. But I will like to advise one thing. Okay, let me stop sharing and we can talk more. Okay, so I would like to advise something, is that don't watch the video for the sake of learning solutions. Just listen to the questions, whatever somebody is trying to explain. Pause the video and just try to solve by yourself. Okay, this will help you to, this will help you a lot. Okay, so that you can do to practice. Okay, I think we are mostly done. We have talked about resources. So, and we will open for question and answers, and if time permits, we will also try to cover most asked interview questions. So if somebody has any questions, feel free to comment. We can always we are able to see some of the questions already, and we will try to answer it. If somebody has more questions, then feel free to comment. Okay, I hope I'm clear, and we will try answering some of the questions that we have seen in the comment sections. Feel free to comment more and feel free to ask more questions. Okay, so let me just try to choose some of the questions which we can take up in the Q&A sessions. Cool. The one thing that we have already answered, what is the difference between union and joins? Please try to ask questions related to SQL only, or instead of asking, somebody has asked where to learn Python for data engineering. This event is not targeted to Python. Please try to ask only questions. Okay. Somebody has asked what are the good resources to learn data warehousing concept and SQL query optimization. Frankly speaking, learning will not help for this data warehousing concept or SQL query optimizations. What you can do, uh, if you are in the, if your current company has some work for data warehousing or data modeling, or for if you are writing some Spark code or writing some BigQuery or anything that is related to SQL, what you can do, you can try optimizing it. So let's suppose you are using a Spark and you have written a Spark SQL. So you can look through the UI and try optimizing your code. So, and uh, without doing some what you call trial and error, it's very hard to optimize SQL. So, frankly speaking, from my perspective, I think SQL optimization only comes when you practice, when you do try and error. And the second thing is that instead of optimization, I think we should focus on readability concept more. Even if let's suppose subquery performs little better, we should opt for writing CT. Okay, because SQLs are very much optimized itself if they are running on some, and we are talking about data engineering, right? So if you are running SQL on top of Spark or BigQuery, so they are very fast with that, right? So all the engines that we are working, they are actually fast. So we should focus on readability instead of focusing much about optimizations. And if you really want to do the optimizations, what you can do, you can just uh, you can do what you can do. You can just practice it or do trial and error for optimizing it. Kamran, you will like to add something?
Yes, just adding to what you already mentioned, there is an explain keyword in all the SQL engines
Right.
or most of it. Just try, if you want to optimize it, just explain how the DB engine ran the query. That it will give you statistic with respect to time and all those things. Now you have data, Google it, what, because you might not understand what it means. So Google it, what this information actually means, and then iteratively keep on improving it.
Cool. I think it answers your questions. Please confirm. Okay, somebody has asked what is the importance of data engineering books related to SQL, even like books of O'Reilly. I think Kamran has one good books. Kamran, can you, if you show that SQL book that you have, I think I have seen one time.
I have this
Uh,
I have this SQL cookbook.
you can just
This
show
I
to.
have,
I think
but
that is. Yeah, can you just take it and put it forward? I think that is the one of the best book.
I have this
Yeah.
SQL cookbook, but I say, guys, the resources that Ankur has already mentioned, those are free resources, and all learning depends on practice, both what you're doing in your company and then what you're practicing on these lead codes or hacker rank. So just do that practice. That should suffice. If you want to deep more into DB internals, that's good. That's a logical next step that you can take. But don't be bogged down into just 6 months of reading and practicing and not taking an
Mm.
action. By action, I mean actually giving the interviews. So just practice for 2-3 months, understand the basic concept, and start giving interviews. Rest of the learning you will have in the interview. So that's my
Cool.
suggestion. Practice with free resources and give interviews.
Right. Let's move to next set of questions. Somebody has asked, do you mean with as clause as city? Yes. With is actually the what you call synonyms of city. You are correct. Somebody has asked, let me rephrase this question. I face problems understanding advanced view. Anis has asked actually containing multiple joins and city and advanced store procedures. How can I get better in it? Let me try answering it, and then we will ask Kamran perspective about it. So it's actually true that if you are having one SQL which has multiple joins and multiple city, it's hard to understand. If you have written, it will be very easy for you. You will always understand it, even if you have written 100 line of SQL. But let's suppose somebody else has written it and you have given some work to change something in that particular SQL. It's very hard. I really feel your problems, and that too if you are working on some company which write extensive views or extensive store procedures. Okay, so but I will give my perspective. When I started working, I worked with one of the client, Motilal Oswal, and Motilal Oswal's the developer from Motilal Oswal used to write multiple store procedures, and it was very complex. It was 200 lines, 100 lines of code SQL problem. And I personally feel if somebody has written 100 line of SQL, it's actually bad. They should actually write some code instead of writing SQL. But to let's start how I was able to crack it. So they used to give me a store position, and I was having the work to migrate it into Apache Spark. How I have solved it? I've just taken one view at a time, like one city at a time, and then again another city at a time. And if somebody has mixed city but subquery, I used to remove that subquery and instead create one more city. So I used to just play very small. Instead of looking 100 line of SQL, I was not looking 100 line of SQL. I used to see how only 10 or 20 line of SQL and try to understand try to extract informations about it. Then I used to move to next 20 lines or next 100 lines. So try to break your SQL code or SQL syntax into multiple parts. Try to understand one part and then again move to next part. I think you will able to crack it. But yeah, it's really hard to understand. Somebody has very extensive store procedure code. Kamran, will you like to add this particular problem? This particular
Yeah, so
problem.
that's a
Problem.
very, yeah, that's a very beautiful explanation. So adding to it, what you can do, for example, there is a stored procedure with 1,000 lines.
Mm-hmm.
Just extract the, for example, what Anko mentioned, just like 10-20 lines, which is a subquery, and understand what it is doing. Write it in English in form of comments on top of it, and then just to validate you understood it correctly, open another tab and run it. Once you run it, you will see the data, and now your assumption is validated that this is doing exactly what you think it is doing. Now, for that SQL block, write beautiful comments between the start of the comment, end of the comment, and write English that this query is extracting customer information given this constraint. Okay, now those lines are gone. Similarly, you can proceed with other code blocks. Now all the SQL is converted into basics English syntax. Now it will be very easy for you. This you can do when the developer who has written the query is not even there in the company. Ankur has the advantage that the person who is presenting the query is present right now.
Right.
So you can right interact with him and ask him what this is doing. So for example, there is a legacy stored procedure, and you don't, and there is no one to help you with that. Do this so that you validate the assumption. Once you have that assumption, always product managers in the company, you can just tell them that I understood this, this is what I'm doing. You can validate your assumption from that. And lastly, store procedure is not a good practice. All the business logic should always be present in Java or whichever programming language that you're using. So if you are in the field of SQL, don't store procedures now. I'll end
Yeah.
with that.
Right. Uh, I think we have answered most of the valid questions that which was presented in the comment sections. If somebody like to add more things, we will like to answer it. Okay.
There
Uh,
is a question about CTC of 10 years. What is that? How
Okay,
much
somebody had
time
how
the
to
CTC
change
depend?
data type of columns in a BigQuery tables.
Hmm.
So let me answer it. I work on BigQuery. So BigQuery has two type of table. One is called external and one is called native tables. Okay. So it depends. If you are having native tables, it is little hard. Or if you are having external tables, you can always do that. You can always change it. There are ways to do it. You can actually change the schema also if it's possible. Let's suppose you are changing from integer to string. It is possible, but there are some constraints with respect to BigQuery that you have to change. I'm also not able to remember. There are constraints like you can change integer to timestamp or timestamp to integer, or you can change into some complex data types like array or struct type of things. In a struct, you will not able to change the schema, but if it is a simple column, you will able to change it. But in native tables it will be little difficult. So yeah, there are certain constraints, but you will able to do that. Okay, I think Anish said thanks for both the answer. I think yeah, we covered your questions. If somebody has more questions, feel free to ask, and we will just try to. If somebody has not a questions, we will like to present one more thing, most asked SQL questions, and we will try to wrap this interview. Sorry, wrap this particular talk. Cool. I think if you are able to see it, so some tips that we would like to give for SQL: write SQL in capital letters. Okay. So all those SQL keywords like select, where, group by, always try to write into capital letters. It will help you to read it. Okay. The second tips is that always have the clear picture of join Venn diagrams. You should understand what left join will do, what right join will do, what outer join will do, what anti join will do. You should always have clear understanding and clear cut idea about the joins and uh, their Venn diagrams. Okay, you should understand when to use having and when to use where clause. This is very much asked in interview, and if you just get confused, it will show very bad picture of you. So always understand when to use having and when to use where clause. Know the difference, as Kamran has already mentioned. Know the difference between union and union all. Very much asked. This is very much asked in interview. Okay. Create city. This also Kamran has given you. Create city instead of multiple subqueries. Okay, you should understand how to use case statement inside sum or count functions. Okay, you should understand how a windows functions work, right? And let's suppose you wanted to have list of columns. Always, instead of using select start, just mention the name of column. It becomes little easier for other persons to, those you are going to read this SQL. Okay, otherwise if you do select star, they will have to trace it back, right? They have to understand that what does select star actually means, which column it is actually uh, trying to fetch. And if you are applying joins, then always mention the column name, even if it is 20 columns. Don't blindly just provide select star, it might create problem for you. Okay, use table India alias. Always use table alias. Let's suppose your table name is very big, don't use that big name and then do dot, instead use table alias. Okay, let's suppose if you don't need any sorting or as such, don't use order by. It's a very costly operator. And if you are on distributed systems, you should always avoid order by clause. Okay, like let's suppose you are writing a Spark SQL or BigQuery. If you order by is not required, never use it. Okay, uh, this is the same thing, union and union all. Let's move to most asked interview questions. Okay. Okay. So the most asked SQL questions is that somebody might ask you, they will give you one table, and there will be, it will contain some null values, and then they will ask you to let them know that how many records will be created once you apply left joins or once you apply right joins. And if it contains null values, it's little tricky problems. If you have not practiced it, you will always give wrong answer. So always practice before going to interview. Take two tables, it should contain some null values, and try to implement inner join, outer join, left join, right join, and every other joins which is possible. The second thing is the very much asked, that is department wise salary. So why this is asked, this type of questions, to it is asked so the interviewer can just judge you that if you understand group by or if you understand Windows function or not. The third most asked question is find duplicates. It's very much asked. You should understand how to find the duplicates and delete duplicates from the table. Okay. The fourth most asked question is second or third highest salary. It is asked because people interviewer want to understand if you really know rank functions, dense rank functions, or this type of Windows functions or not. The second thing is that the fifth thing is find the manager who have more than 5 direct employees. It is very much asked and it is little tricky. If you understand how to apply self join, you will able to do it. If you don't understand how to apply self join, it will be, this problem will be little hard for you. Okay. And the sixth point is find the employee with the salary more than their manager salary. This is very much asked, and this is also requires understanding about self join. Okay, because same table will have the employee information, and the same table will also have manager informations, and they will ask you to find the employee which has more salary than their managers, and it's really tricky. And this have already mentioned questions based on rank, row number, and dense rank, and also include lead and lag. Okay, and the eighth is find the record table which is not present in another tables, right? So if you understand how to apply joins, you will able to answer these questions. I think I'm able to answer all these questions. These are most asked 8 questions in interview. Okay, and so yeah, these are the some of the most asked interview questions, and I hope we were able to help you. Feel free to ask any other questions, and till we are going to entertain one more question. Somebody has asked, when I say 100 lines of SQL code, Ankur, you have mentioned 100 lines of SQL should not be created in some program. I have 1,000 lines of SQL. Can you explain more on this? Yeah, let me try to explain. See, SQL might be optimized or might perform little better in certain use cases, but as Kamran has already mentioned, that instead of writing 100 line of SQL, you should opt for writing the same logic using some programs, because in programming it is easier to write comments, it is easier to develop functions. You can create multiple small standalone function, you can reuse it. I know you can create functions in SQL Server or Oracle, but with readability perspectives, it becomes very hard. Kamran, will you like to add more why one should not write too extensive SQL? Instead, one should use programs to solve the same problem.
Yes, yeah, a lot of points, but this comes to my mind right now.
Hmm.
When you write, for example, first of all, business logic should always be present at one place. If you are distributing business logic in multiple locations, for example, some business logic is present in the UI on front end, some is present in the back end application, some is present in the SQL as a stored procedure, it's a extremely bad practice. Always business logic should be present in the application, for example, Java application. That's the first point. Second point, when you're writing a code using a programming language, you are writing unit test cases, integration test cases. There are a lot of testing that you do, and you write a code and then you create a wrapper around that code with the help of testing frameworks. This you don't do in SQL. So, for example, if you make a change which is unintentional, unit will break, but nothing will happen in SQL. So these are just basic things that comes to mind, but that's why it's always a good practice to write business logic. You don't consider okay writing SQL or not. No, differentiate it like this: that business logic should always be present in the backend application so that it is easily debuggable, readable, modular, and whatnot. And
Yeah,
and
right.
adding to what Ankur was explaining in the previous slide, in which he was mentioning the select star, the select star query will break if somehow the table on which the select star query is written, number of columns change. So, for example, you written select star and then you're outputting, for example, the number of columns changed, the query will break.
Yeah.
It hinders readability, but it will actually break the output. Secondly,
Right.
one more point which Ankur has, the question that Ankur just shared, that identify the employees which have greater salary than an employer. Now, this question, it doesn't say do you have to use self join, but
Hmm.
you decipher from this English language that this is a question of self join, right? So that's what the mental model that you will create. Okay, okay. In English, it never says that you have to join the table, but since you have solved similar questions, you understand. Oh, this question involves self join.
Yeah,
So
right.
answered three things.
Yeah, right. So let's take one more questions and then we will wrap it up. So
Mm.
Anis has asked, when I see 100 lines of SQL code, I wonder if it was indeed needed to write those many lines of code, or if a better developer could have written it in a fewer lines of code. Actually, this is actually true. Yeah, right. See, when the problem with people who write SQL is that they are not clear about their requirements. When they start writing SQL code, they will be like, I need these things. After sometimes some another requirement will come and then people will again start adding SQL code. And in the end, even if in a big company, nobody takes this tension of refactoring that SQL code, and it just keep on growing. So yeah, it is actually right. But that's the work of engineers, right? That's the work of us. To we are engineers. We should not only build new things, we should also sustain the old things, like some legacy code or something. So yeah, but that's true. That the code can be refactored, but people have very great fear of breaking the whole pipeline itself. So that's why people don't touch it. I to try to touch it. Sometimes it created problem for me also. So I love refactoring. So I try to refactor a lot. I try to break it down and try to make little lesser line of code. Yeah, but yeah, if you feel like that, so one thing that I learned from my first jobs and one of my mentor, he's an architect in Rapido right now. So he helped me that Ankur, don't worry about breaking codes. If you always worry about breaking codes, you will not learn. The thing is that if you can break it, if you have some development or testing environment, don't break in production. But if you are having some environment like staging or development, break the code and try to write, if you can write in better way. Kamran, will you like to add something? Kamran, you're on mute.
Yeah, no, I think we are see, someone writes 100, someone like 200, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you should always incline towards more readability and more comments. So for example, if you've written extensive comments explaining what he is doing, then it's good.
Yeah, right. I think we are good. Thank you all. I think we got it covered for 1 hour, and thank you for staying back. And thank you, Kamran, for your valuable time. You are able to connect in month of Ramadan. It's really nice of you. And thank you for your valuable time. And thank you everyone for your time and staying for 1 hour actually. Uh, Kamran, if you can say some words before closing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Ankur. I see one question in which when should we not use SQL DB for data storage? That's a very complicated question, man, because
Mhm.
storage, because choice of a database is a very important choice, and it is a choice that once taken cannot be rolled back easily. so,
Yeah, right.
so there is a lot of diligence that needs to be done while choosing a DB.
Hmm.
So I don't think we should just do it like this.
Yeah, we will try to
It
take up
needs a
in
very
next
careful
session.
thought.
Yeah, next session.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your times, and
Thank you.
thank you very much.